Hello, the initiated. My name is Markus Junnikkala. This is the Be a Better Artist podcast. If you are watching this or listening, you're probably going to see or hear a bit of background noise. I'm going to do my best to clean that up, but trying out a new format here, struggling to find time to do the podcast at the studio. So what I'm going to do is do it while I'm actually driving from place to place. So let me know how that sounds like, looks like, etc. So today I want to talk about something quite uncomfortable, as many topics are that have something to do with self-development. Today I want to talk about self-growth and friends, self-growth and friendships. And I want to talk about the very fundamental truth of the fact that when you are growing, when you are changing yourself, your friendships will also change. And the fundamental reason for that is that all friendships, all relationships are based on a shared agreement or actually a selection of agreements. And one of those agreements is a shared level of perception of how the world is. And oftentimes these tend to be qualities that you share because of a shared temperament. So if you tend to be a more open person, you're probably going to gravitate naturally towards other people who are open as well. And if you tend to be more of a conservative type, then you tend to gravitate towards those kind of people. But most commonly people bond in a more stronger way once they see that, hey, we have shared perceptions of how the world is and how we are supposed to orient ourselves in relation to that world. Now, the fundamental challenge is that change is all about going beyond what you currently are. So by definition, when you are growing, when you are changing, you need to go into uncharted waters. You need to go beyond who and what you currently are. And because of a lot of relationships are based on a shared perception and shared understanding of where we are in time and space, and what is it that we do, what is it that we are moving into as individuals. If you as an individual are changing, then by default, anyone in relation to you that you have a relationship with is going to see that, hey, there's a shift there, there's a change there. And therefore, because our relationship was based on these shared values and on these shared perceptions of who we are, what the world is, and how we're supposed to operate in the world, when you change as an individual, by default, those relationships are challenged as well. And you're going to find, or as you've probably already experienced in your life, once you're changing, that's going to make a lot of people uncomfortable, and it's going to evoke a lot of negative pushback from people, because what your change is implying is that my previous model, which by the way you and me shared, that's now breaking for me. That's no longer functional for me. That's no longer resourceful for me. So you are challenging their entire worldview in a sense, perhaps not entire, but a big chunk of it. You're saying this is no longer functional for me. This is no longer sufficient for me, and I need to change. And because our relationship was based on a shared perception, now often the negative perception of that situation that the other person has is now you are moving on, leaving them behind, saying that, hey, where you are currently is no longer correct. It's no longer sufficient. And for the other person, there's a feeling that, hey, I'm being left behind. My worldview, my perceptions are being criticized. And often there's also a sense that the person moving on is now somehow attacking that relationship, or, straight up betraying what you are and what you were. And this is often why relationships break. This is why we often fall in and out of relationships. I don't mean romantic only, but all kinds of friendships, could be professional, could be just, friends, buddies, And it's often not because of any malicious intent. It's simply due to the fundamental fact of change. And this is what brings us to perhaps one of the answers to this question, which is, well, what should you do about it then? And I've talked about change before. I've talked about how it's the fundamental quality to life. Everything will change. The only thing in life that is guaranteed for us human beings is change. Nothing is forever. And in a healthy relationship, both parties or all parties should understand this. That's a really hallmark of a healthy social relationship. So fundamentally, you should be looking for people in your life who understand this fundamental quality of life, so that they're not going to be bitter and resentful as you try and better yourself, as you try and move in to something new, something better, something greater. So seek out for people who understand the fundamental truth of change. And of course, seek out people who are happy about that change transpiring. It might be negative or even destructive to your relationship that you have between one another, but ultimately a good friend is going to realize and is going to upkeep and protect the fact that if something is positive for you, even if it means something negative for us, then I'm going to support you in that endeavor. And that's difficult because maybe this relationship means a lot to you. But if you see that someone is genuinely moving forward in a positive, constructive manner that is resulting clearly in increased happiness in that person's life, then yes, I think you should be sacrificing what that relationship currently is for what it could be. Which brings me to the next point, which is that you don't know what's on the other side of that change. Yes, your current relationship might have to die, but who says what's on the other side of that? And maybe that change in that other person can inspire change in you. And yes, there's going to be destruction in your relationship as this change happens, but also what's present there is an opportunity for something new. It's an opportunity to build something different. And yes, maybe, or not even maybe, the relationship is going to be something different in the future, but it's not necessarily better or worse. Certainly, I'd encourage you to focus on how to make it better, but it's going to be different. It's going to be different, but it doesn't mean it has to be worse. It could be better in a number of ways, and obviously, it's not going to be better in many ways that you previously considered to be positive. Most likely, a lot of those are going to die off, but you can build something new in its place, and that's really what I encourage you to focus on. Just because things are changing can't mean that things can be improving, and that we can't build something bigger, better, more resourceful, more healthier, happier in its place. So I know it's hard. Relationships are very difficult and very taxing, and emotional turmoil, emotional loads they're heavy. But you gotta accept that change is a fundamental truth of life. You gotta focus on the fact that you want to be a good friend. You want to be the best friend, and a good friend genuinely wants the best for the other person, even when it means the destruction of something that you currently have going on with that person in a positive way. And also, lastly, remember that you can build something on the other side of that. And in my estimation and experience, relationships that go through hard times and manage them and build something new in their place tend to be the strongest and the best relationships in the world. So that's it. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. I will see you next time. Finished.